continue with the operation. You may fire when ready.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 13 of Fire When Ready. I am your host Alex Corey, and on this podcast I like to talk about my thoughts on all things geeky, being the world of movies, TV, comics, because I freaking love genre content. And what I mean by genre content is essentially the works of fantasy, works of science fiction, works of espionage films, action films, horror movies. I just enjoy it all so much, and there's just so many great franchises out there, so many amazing stories to explore, to enrapture oneself in, and today I wanted to actually dedicate this podcast to franchises that really got me excited to check out the lore and just explore the entire universe within those franchises. And so these are franchises that I love, that because of one of the aspects of said franchises, it has me wanting to check out more. Like, for instance, how the Star Wars movies made me love the Star Wars franchise so much that it made me want to delve deeper into the lore. Like, after I saw the Star Wars movies, I loved it so much that I couldn't get enough of it. I wanted to check out the books. I wanted to play the games, I wanted to see the animated shows, and then eventually other shows that came along. Those movies just made me hungry for more. So these are the franchises that I say, when I saw the movie, it made me want to delve deeper into the lore, or maybe whatever else the creator of that franchise made, essentially. So besides Star Wars, the franchises that I've already done that are Marvel, DC. Big fan of the Marvel movies, big fan of the DC movies. For instance, Marvel made me want to go back and read the comics. I did so with DC as well. And yeah, it's just so cool to see how the source material started out and how it translated to the on-screen content we've been getting, and it's just amazing, the sorts of creative minds that are out there to bring that content to fruition. So today, this is essentially a top 5 list. I'd say like a unfiltered, off the top of my head, shoot the breeze editorial about the top 5 franchises that have me hyped about the lore and the universe. So 5 franchises that I'm going to get into that are genre content, the different types of genres I mentioned at the beginning: fantasy, sci-fi, espionage, action, horror, what have you. All that fun stuff. So before I actually get into my 5 franchises, I actually wanted to bring up some honorable mentions, and here we go. Here's the honorable mentions I have up my sleeve. So the first 2 honorable mentions I'm going to mention are franchises I have no idea what they are. I've only know very little about them. So the first of those franchises I want to bring up are The Witcher. I watched the first episode on Netflix of the new Witcher show starring Henry Cavill. Really liked what I got so far. I'm getting some Game of Thrones vibes, but I feel like it's gonna lean more towards that fantasy edge, which I actually kind of prefer. Not to denote Game of Thrones. I love what they did. Like, it was like a medieval political drama, and I loved it. Game of Thrones, you might hear a little bit more of later on. But The Witcher so far, I really liked the first episode, and yeah, by the time you listen to this, maybe I'll have watched more, but as I'm recording this, only seen the first episode, and yeah, it kind of led me astray, didn't know where it was going, and yeah, it really shocked me, and thought I had a completely different story made up in my mind when I was watching it, but then as I continued to watch the episode, I was like, oh, we're going there, okay, all right, yeah, like where it's going so far, The Witcher, first pick. Second pick is Dune. Now, at least for The Witcher, I saw the first episode of the show. Dune, I've seen nothing of it. I've seen none of the movies. I didn't read Frank Herbert's original book, but I am hyped so much for the new movie coming out in December, directed by Denis Villeneuve, who did Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. I just love his vision for the sci-fi movies he's made. Can really make innovative looking films and tell great, deep, thought-provoking stories and give us great characters within those movies. And I just can't wait to see how he'll do it with Dune and make me so invested in the lore. I just can't wait for that movie. I just need new weird sci-fi fantasy in my life, and I think I'm gonna get that with Dune. So there you go. That's Dune. Next franchise, which is completely different than the other two I just brought up, Gremlins. Yeah, sure. There's so much you can do with the variety of Gremlins that are introduced in the first two movies, which are both a lot of fun. If you haven't checked out the Gremlins movies, you're doing yourself a disservice. But I'm excited to check out more of the lore because we got a new animated series coming on HBO Max. And I'm just excited to see what it's going to introduce. Secrets of the Mogwai has me interested. The title alone, is what I should say, is because I think that's going to delve more into the fantasy of the Gremlins franchise. Maybe what the Mogwais are, why, they turn out the way they are, and eventually becoming Gremlins. Can't wait for that. Because it's cool to have more Gremlins content, and I'm excited to see how they'll do it, even in animated form, because it's already zany. All right, next franchise is a fantasy franchise, and that is The Chronicles of Narnia. Only saw the first two movies. I remember loving The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe movie when I was a kid. And I actually recently started reading the first book, and I like that it's more along the lines of being a lighthearted fantasy story. I don't actually know if it gets darker as it goes along because I've only seen the movies. Haven't read all the books just yet, but I can't wait to. I really like the lore that's set up. And but I had to put it a little lower in my honorable mentions because there's just some more fantasy franchises I wanted to delve into just a little bit more. But Chronicles of Narnia ain't too bad so far. So next franchise, which got so close on this list, and that is Ghostbusters. The Ghostbusters franchise. I love the first two movies to death. I wasn't too big on the 2016 Ghostbusters movie with the all-female cast. Really appreciated what they were doing. I liked that it wanted to bring a new audience into the Ghostbusters franchise, and I really appreciated it for that reason, but it didn't do much for me. I thought it was maybe a little too modernized for my taste, but, if people enjoyed it, that's great. I'm glad there were some people out there who enjoyed the movie, but personally, I prefer that them doing this new take with the new Afterlife movie. That's got me excited. But I do want to check out what's surrounding the movies, being the cartoons. Real Ghostbusters looks like a lot of fun, 80s cartoon. Extreme Ghostbusters looks frickin' rad. I think that's on Hulu right now. Going all out with the 90s animation. Can't wait. The variety of ghosts and teams can be really inventive, really fun if you explore that in comic books and cartoons. So excited to see that. Also, video game, Ghostbusters video game. I know that just got remastered for PlayStation and Xbox. Probably going to check out the PlayStation version eventually. Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait. That's it for the honorable mentions. So let's get into the top 5 franchises that has me hyped about the lore and the universe. Sorry, I had to really get close to the microphone. I don't care. Let's get into it. Here's my number 5. Now, number 5 has a new movie. It's a franchise that has a new film coming out. It's been going on for years and years and years. And it probably has as many movies as the MCU at this point. And that is the James Bond franchise. Now, espionage has grown to be another one of my favorite franchises. Because a couple years ago, I rewatched all the Mission Impossible movies to watch Mission Impossible Fallout. And it really just dawned on me after I saw Fallout that, man, do I love this franchise. Man, can this, if it's done right, can it be a lot of fun with, grounding it in reality, but still having a really intense action core to it, while giving us really solid characterizations. James Bond. So I wanted to do the crazy thing and try to watch all the movies before No Time to Die comes out in April. I've only gotten 2 movies in because there's just so many. I wanted to do the crazy thing and watch all the movies. But I'm just excited because the older films I saw thus far are so ahead of their time. And since I'm watching the Connery films, currently I got that feeling when I started watching the Star Wars original trilogies for the Star Wars original trilogy for the first time. I noticed that I got that same feeling that when I was a kid, when I watched A New Hope for the first time, I was so excited to watch Empire because it was just it was a brand new movie with new characters I just fell in love with in the previous film. And that's how I felt watching James Bond lately. Like, after I finished Dr. No, I really loved that film, and I was just so excited to see another Sean Connery Bond movie and just see the new adventure he was going to be in for. And, yeah, and even though I'm 2 movies in, I still can't wait to continue the franchise. And I know I did some research, and I know the Connery movies are a part of the Spectre storyline, I believe, the old school Spectre storyline. And I can't wait to check out more of that. And, yeah, and if I don't watch all of them before No Time to Die, I at least want to watch the Connery movies and the Daniel Craig films, especially the Craig films before No Time to Die comes out. But already I'm invested in the franchise. I can't wait to see how inventive it gets. But circling it back to how, it makes how a movie franchise wants me to delve deeper into the lore, I think once I watch all the movies, it's going to make me want to go back and read the books. I think if I love a majority of the movies, there's no question I'm going to dive back into what Ian Fleming's novels made that franchise so great in the first place. Yeah, I'm very excited to watch all the movies, eventually read the books, and yeah, I think the movies really do a job of making you just give a crap about the charismatic character in Mr. 007 himself, and he's portrayed by great actors too. So yeah, there you go. Number 5, James Bond. Number 4 on this list is a franchise I've been getting into for a while. It's one of the newer fantasy franchises to come out, and it was popularized through a very famous TV show. And this franchise is A Song of Ice and Fire, basically the works by George R. Martin. Yeah, so the Game of Thrones TV show I've loved all the way through. Yep, I've loved every single season. And what I loved so much about what the TV show gave me was that there were complex characters and a really fantastical history set up in the world of Westeros. I loved that it was a fantasy show that was grounded in reality. It wasn't afraid to take risks of really going into some realistic territory and really having it get under your skin. And I was really just impressed by like how David Benioff and D.B. Weiss was able to capture that in the show, adapting George R. Martin's books. But that being said about the Game of Thrones show, it really has me dying to read the books. What actually made the series as good as it was, the lore. And so, yeah, that has me dying to read the books. And I know I'll have plenty of times to read the books since the new book isn't going to be out for a while. The Winds of Winter. George R. Martin has said a million times that he's working on it. But I do hope eventually it does come to fruition and he's able to release it and that he's satisfied with his end product. In the end, I just want a good book, no matter how long it takes. But other than that, I know I'll have the time to to read for the first time, the Song of Ice and Fire books and understand like why it made the Game of Thrones show as good as it is, and even maybe some deviations that the show took that wasn't explored in the show but in the books. Now I just want to see how different it is, and I'm really just so interested in how the books are pulled off, and I can't wait to read those at some point. But yeah, the layered characters didn't necessarily call for a good versus evil story, and it really should be interesting to be expanded upon in literature form. It's a really captivating fantasy franchise, and I can't wait to explore more of it. Number 3 on my list is actually a franchise universe, I should say, that a lot of people don't know are connected unless you really delve deep into it. And that universe is the Blade Runner, Alien, and Predator universe. So here we go. Blade Runner is quite possibly my favorite sci-fi movie of all time, and Alien is a close second. But for those who don't know how Alien and Blade Runner are connected, is that what I learned recently was that there was a Easter egg on the Prometheus Blu-ray, which for those of you who don't know, Prometheus is an Alien prequel. There's an Easter egg on the Prometheus Blu-ray where there's a letter you can read in this little Blu-ray feature of a letter. There's a letter that you can read that was written from Peter Weyland to Eldon Tyrell, I should say, and both, are successful for making androids in their own corporations. But but this implies this letter from Weyland to Tyrell. It implies that Weyland and Eldon Tyrell were good friends, and yeah, so you have that connection there. Predator also coexisted in that world because in Predator 2. In the very end of this, towards the end of the movie, spoiler alert if you don't want to know, it's really not a big deal, but since there's another franchise surrounding it, AVP. But in the final scene of Predator, you also see a xenomorph skeleton in the final scene of the movie. But yes, the AVP, which, implies that there's an Alien vs. Predator franchise. I believe there were comic books around the time the Predator 2 movie came out, and then eventually there's an Alien vs. Predator movie. They made another one after that, Alien vs. Predator Requiem. But yeah, there's so much that I personally collected comic-wise from the Alien franchise that I haven't read yet, but because I loved the Alien movie so much, I wanted to check out more of the lore and more stories involved, and maybe there's other territory in that sci-fi world we hadn't seen yet. But yeah, there's Alien comics out there. There's Predator comics out there, all published by Dark Horse. The Alien vs. Predator comic I mentioned. But yeah, there's so much to get into there. Also for Blade Runner, because of Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, both incredible movies. They're about to spawn a new animated show on Adult Swim. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, there was also that Blade Runner short film that came out before 2049 came out, which was directed by Shinichiro Watanabe, who famously is a director, creator, I believe, of Cowboy Bebop. I think he was the creator as well. I know he directed a handful of episodes. I'll have to fact check that later. But Shinichiro Watanabe, who developed Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo, really famous anime director, did this incredible Blade Runner short film in that anime hand-drawn style, and it looked absolutely fabulous. But to see how a Blade Runner show will be pulled off on Adult Swim really has me intrigued. But aside from Blade Runner, there's also the perfect opportunity for me to delve back into the Philip K. Dick's original source material, which is the novel that Blade Runner, the first movie, was based off of, called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which to my knowledge is a lot different than the first Blade Runner movie. The Blade Runner movie is loosely based off of that book. But to think that all coexists within that sci-fi world, to me, is just so amazing, so fun. I mean, there's already so much story out there to explore that doesn't give off the impression that continuity-wise it has the difficulty to fit under one canon, like the Lucasfilm Story Group has to do with the Star Wars official canon. Since the roots of Blade Runner, Alien, and Predator, the series, revert back to the movies. So anything under the Blade Runner, Alien, Predator label that's released outside of the film franchises should be closely connected to the movies, unless maybe there's a crazy crossover. Like, I know there's an Alien and Predator crossover with Superman and Batman, which I do own. Haven't read them yet. Heck, there's even an Archie versus Predator comic book, which I read and is a lot of fun. If you haven't read that yet, check it out. It's so good. But yeah, there's those franchises out there. But to think those three franchises are under one roof is just so cool. So cool. I like that. There's that connection. All right, guys, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. We have our last two here. Now, these next two franchises, movie-wise, are the closest, I'd say, they're the closest things I have to Star Wars, because I just love them so much. I love the film franchises so much. But but what's surrounding it makes me want to check out more. And so number 2 on this list is The Wizarding World. And those of you who don't know, Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts. Look, I've seen the Harry Potter movies many, many times. If it hadn't been for the first 2 movies, I would not love live-action fantasies as much as I do. It probably wouldn't, because, before that I wasn't really into live-action films that much. I was more of an animation kid growing up. But then when I saw Chamber of Secrets, because I was that weird kid who saw Chamber of Secrets before he saw Sorcerer's Stone. Well, I saw like a part of Sorcerer's Stone on TV one time, and then eventually I saw Chamber of Secrets, watched that all the way through, then went back and watched Sorcerer's Stone, and then around that time, to tell you how old I am, I saw Prisoner of Azkaban in the movie theater. Yeah, been a fan of the Harry Potter movies. I really love the Fantastic Beasts series so far. But because I love the movies so much, when I was a kid, I actually read the first 3 books, but just the first 3. I hadn't read them since, and I never continued. So I want to read them all, basically is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, it might be like, oh, you didn't read those when you were a kid? Now, hear me out. I think when I want to read them all because I think as an adult, I'll have more of an understanding about why J.K. Rowling's world works so beautifully in its source material, and because of the movies, why the movies translate those stories well on screen is because, I want to see, like, where that source came from, and what made those movies so great, because I've seen those movies so many times, but I want to see, I want to look at it in a different light, and understand why those stories were so great in the first place, and how J.K. Rowling told those stories, and I just really want to see how she does it, because, yeah, so for so long I even made a video about it, and I'll probably change my tune. I'll make a new video soon, where I had this thing where I like how movies told. I basically just appreciated movies more than I did books. But I'm trying to, I think I am definitely gaining more an appreciation towards literature because I am starting to get back into reading. I haven't really read books as much since I was in elementary school, I want to say. I think it's definitely a good time to check them out again, and just having this love of fantasy as much as I do now, and understanding why it's good, and understanding what makes it so rich and fun. I think it's a great time to read the Harry Potter books. But enough of that. Let's get to our final franchise. Now, the number 1 fantasy franchise has me hyped about the lore. It's the closest thing. It's as close to Star Wars as I want it to be, because the movies are just so good. It was first a trilogy like Star Wars, then there's another trilogy that came out, prequel trilogy. That had some fans divided. I personally enjoyed the prequels for this franchise, and that is Middle-earth. Middle-earth, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, is quite possibly the single greatest trilogy of all time. Because it used to be Star Wars original trilogy for me was my favorite trilogy, but I think I love the saga as a whole. So I think my favorite trilogy is Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings, it's really, my Star Wars love is close to Lord of the Rings love, movie-wise. But with the Amazon show on the horizon, which I believe is dealing with the Second Age, about the forging of the One Ring, it has me wanting to go back and experience the books. I haven't read... So I'm reading The Hobbit now, currently. I haven't read it since I was in middle school. And, when you have, like, a book report and stuff like that, you don't... Like, for me, at least, it was, like... I wasn't really connecting with literature that much at that time. And I feel like at that point, I was just, like, reading words on the page, and it wasn't just sinking in. But now, I think since I committed myself to... having the short attention span and stuff like that. I think when, as I got older, when I started to, delve more into comic books, I think, I disciplined myself to sitting there reading text, and, and then I just I just learned that way, like, how powerful words can be on paper, and yeah, what the heck? I wanted to check out what made J.R.R. Tolkien's books so good, and I started reading The Hobbit, and honestly, I'm really liking it so far. I'm really appreciating what Tolkien did to tell that story, to engage readers in a new fantasy world, and yeah, and I'm just I'm trying to take the movies out of it and just read it as its own thing, and I'm really enjoying it so far, and I can't wait to see how Lord of the Rings compares. I heard, Tolkien can get descriptive, but I want to give it a whirl at least. I want to at least give it a try and give it the benefit of the doubt, and yeah, I think I am going to check it out and see how I feel. I'm digging The Hobbit so far, and, if I like more, I'll indulge in it. If I don't, I don't. No big deal. But yeah, I'm just gonna enjoy that for now. There's video games out there, the Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War series. Want to check out those at some point, because I think it's dealing with the same time period as the Amazon show is going to deal with. I don't know what's going to be we don't know what's going to be canon yet with Amazon, with the Amazon show. I think it might be canon with the books. I don't think it'll be canon with the movies. If it is, that'd be very interesting. We're just gonna have to wait and see, and I can't wait that Middle Earth is gonna have sort of a comeback, because the last Hobbit film came out. Oh boy, it came out in 2014. That's so in December, that's gonna be oh my god, I'm feeling so old right now. But so yeah, guys, so there you have it. These are the 5 franchises that have me excited about the lore, the universe. And so what franchises are you guys into? Let me know. If you're listening on YouTube, comment below. What are some franchises that you guys are into that you maybe have seen one aspect of, but you loved that medium so much that you want to check out more, that you just can't get enough of it. You're hungry for more of the franchise. Yeah, let me know below. And so yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I can't wait to check out what all these franchises entail. Yeah, it's really a good time to be a fan of genre content. And you know what? If you just open up your heart when you watch any of these movies or shows, or read any of these books or comic books, or play any of these games, just open yourself up. See how the story can rapture you, and see how these characters can touch you, and maybe how you can relate to said characters. And yeah, because I really do, even though these are stories being made to sell, to help a business thrive, in the end it's art, and it's cool that we can engage in all this incredible art. And yeah, I think this is just a great time to have good conversations, have intelligent conversations, and to just analyze it, not in a nitpicky way, but analyze it in a way that maybe can change the way you think, in a way. And yeah, I think this is just a great time to be a fan of entertainment. So thank you all so much for listening. If you want to follow me more, you can follow me at AlexJCorey on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/thealexcorey, the last name Corey. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And tune in 2 weeks, where it's going to be a really big day. I'm actually not going to release the next episode of Fire When Ready on the 24th, because that day we're getting a big, because in 2 weeks is going to be the Star Wars themed episodes. Episode, I shouldn't say, not multiple episodes, but the 24th is going to be the big Star Wars announcement of Project Luminous, the super secret Star Wars line that they're going to make regarding maybe books and video games. Who knows what it's going to be, but whatever it is, I'm going to break it down right here on Fire When Ready on the news segment, the Hello, What Have We Here? I'm going to break it down on that Star Wars segment, on my new Star Wars themed shows that are happening every other week. But yeah, I'll be breaking down Project Luminous. That episode will be coming to you on the Tuesday of that week. That'll be Tuesday the 25th. So excited to share that with you guys. And then 2 weeks after that, where I give you another discussion about genre content. such as this glorious stuff I mentioned today. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope to see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Have a good one.